Hello folks, this is Sula speaking. You're listening to another commentary video for League of Legends, this one featuring Nasus. Once again, I'm playing in a pre-made team, along with Uberfish, who's playing as Tarek, with Cole, who's playing as Siphon, with Varus, who's playing as Rammus, and with Mookie, who's playing as Sion. You can see the enemy team that we're playing against, and one of the interesting comments that I'll make here on the loading screen is we noticed that the Amumu player on the other team has Ghost Flash, which are very interesting summoners for an Amumu. I think we said something like Amumu definitely needs Ghost Flash so that he can ghost and then flash into the middle of the team to use his ultimate. But anyway, interesting choices there. For this game, I'm going to be playing as Nasus. This is not the first game I've played as Nasus, but maybe the second or third game I've played with him. I did play another game with Nasus a little bit earlier this week. In that game, I think I actually played decently with Nasus. I think I had something like 8 kills and 6 deaths and a number of assists. But our team got rolled pretty hard in that game. We kind of got destroyed in that game. And interesting though that might be for a cast, I decided I would rather cast a game. I would rather cast this one than that particular game. So, in any case, we are going to be, in terms of the laning assignments, we are going to be sending Mookie Sion to the top lane. And as it turns out, this team actually is not going to be jungling with any of their champs, which kind of strangely because they have a Mumu. We figured that a Mumu would be jungling, but no, he's not going to be. He's going to be in a lane. We're going to be sending Cole's Sivir to the middle lane. We're going to have Varus's Rammus jungling, and then Uberfish and I are going to take the bottom lane with Nasus and Tarek. And so I'll be getting to the going through talking about Nasus' skills as I go through the game. You can see I'm going to highlight them here. One thing that I'll mention just while we're sort of killing time here is that the Nasus passive gives him lifesteal. He starts at 10% and it goes up to, I think, 20%. It goes up to then 15%, then 20% as he levels up. So not a big deal. Decent passive, but nothing to write home. You'll get a little bit of life back when you lifesteal. Okay, in any case, in terms of summoners, I've taken Ghost and Exhaust. I think that these are pretty clearly the two summoners that you should be taking on Nasus. Ghost is useful for a lot of reasons, always useful for chasing, useful for getting away. Exhaust just works very well with some of his skills, which I'll talk about later on. And you might notice that I have pretty good armor and magic resistance to start the game, and that's because I've put a bunch of mastery points into the defensive mastery tree for Nasus, he being a bit of a tanky character. So we're going to put in a few hits on the Golem to help out Varus as he's jungling, and then we're going to head down to the bottom lane. In terms of the laning assignments, you can see that there is a Veigar in mid, so Cole's Sivir is going to be laning against their Veigar player. They have a Poppy and an Amumu in top lane, which is a little bit of a strange laning combination, but there you go. And then down here in the bottom lane, we're going to have Ashe and we're going to have Malphite that we're going to be laning against. This gives them a pretty good advantage because due to the fact that they have Ashe, that means that they have a ranged attack where we really don't between our two champs. Neither Nasus or Tarek really have a ranged attack that they can use. And Malphite, of course, can harass with his seismic shard, so they have a definite range advantage, which means we're going to have to play defensively here. But anyway, the first thing that I really want to cover is going through and talking about Nasus' skills before I get into more complicated stuff involving Nasus. So the skill I want to talk about first is the one I put my first point in. This is his Q skill, known as Siphoning Strike. If you notice, you might notice me using it every time that Nasus' staff glows, like right there, I used it. Siphoning Strike gives him is on a very short cooldown, does good damage, and it's a physical attack, melee attack, and it gives him bonus attack damage, and it has an extra property of every time that Nasus kills something with it, a minion or an enemy champ, but usually a minion, he permanently adds to the attack damage of Siphoning Strike. So when you start the game, it's pretty weak, but if you can keep last hitting things and killing them with your Siphoning Strike, you'll level it up and it'll become more powerful throughout the game. So you want to be last hitting with Siphoning Strike a lot. For a very long time, Siphoning Strike did 2 damage. Every time you killed something, it added 2 bonus damage to the skill, but it was buffed in the most recent patch as I record this video. It increased so that each time you kill something with Siphoning Strike, it adds 3 damage instead of 2. So that change actually makes Nasus a lot more viable. It means that he can produce a lot more damage. Previously, the main thing holding him back was he just didn't really do enough damage. Nasus has a lot of skills that add utility, but before that he just didn't do enough damage to really be effective. But now with the boost to his Siphoning Strike, it makes him a lot more useful. So you'll be seeing me trying to last hit with Siphoning Strike a lot, and anytime you see a little purple aura around the minion after I kill it, that means that I've gotten a last hit with Siphon Strike. So anyway, that'll be going on throughout the game. Nasus's next skill that people usually concentrate on is his E skill. You can see I put my second point in that. This is Nasus's Spirit Fire. He swirls his staff, and after a delay of maybe like a half second, he puts down a circle on the ground, and anyone who stands in it will take damage. Very useful skill for farming. Also, there's a secondary effect of Spirit Fire that people often forget, but which is very important. Anyone who stands in the Spirit Fire not only takes damage, but they also have their armor reduced. So it's an area of effect armor reduction as well. At 1 point in the skill, it reduces the armor by 20. With additional points in the skill, it adds more armor reduction. But in any case, I'm going to get back to his skills in a minute, because here, Varus is coming in to go for a gank in bottom lane, and we were going to go against Ashe, but as soon as she flashed away, we're going to decide to go after Malphite instead. So there's the Spirit Fire to reduce his armor, and all of us are going to just pile on our skills and finish him off pretty easily. So that was a very easy kill. That was all set up due to the fact that, number one, they didn't have a jungler, and then number two, the fact that their Ashe and their Malphite players were pushing that lane so aggressively. So just for anyone watching this, I know a lot of you, when you play this game, you might have this tendency to just auto-attack minions and push the lane, push, but that's usually not the best strategy when you're in the laning phase, because it makes it very easy for an enemy jungler to come up behind you and do exactly what we just did in that matchup there. So with only Ashe here, we can really push her around and we can control this lane. So you can see I have absolutely no fear of Ashe when it's two of us here. And if Uberfish would come forward and use his stun, we might have a chance to kill her, but for whatever reason, Uber's kind of playing passively in the back, and I'm not 100% sure why. But anyway, getting back to Nasus' skills, as I mentioned, his Siphoning Strike, you see me using it here. As Malphite teleports back into the lane, he took teleport as a summoner skill. The other skill, Spirit Fire, as I said, area of effect damage. The actual damage is relatively low, although you can use it to farm pretty well. Once you get a couple points in it, it will destroy minion waves pretty easily. It also, as I said, area of effect armor debuff, which is actually quite useful. If people stand in there and they take the armor reduction, that will make a big difference in team fights. So one of the things that gives a lot of utility to Nasus. So Spirit Fire, very good skill. Siphoning Strike, very good skill as well. His other skill, his W skill, is one that I just used right there. It was a little hard to see me use it. This skill is called Wither. When you use it on enemy champs, they don't take any damage, but they have their speed reduced, and they also have their attack speed reduced. And it starts at 35%, and then it increases as you put more points in it. It actually goes pretty high if you put even more points in it. So for a skill that doesn't do any damage, it's pretty good. Now see, like right there, I'm going to use Spirit Fire. Wither at rank 5 points into the skill, you get a very high slow effect. So this is sort of where you get Nasus' role on the team. His goal isn't so much to do a ton of damage necessarily, although you do need him to do some damage, so the enemy team can't just ignore him. But with his Wither, his main function is to shut down carries on the enemy team. So like that Ashe that you see, in a team fight playing as Nasus, your #1 goal would be to shut down that Ashe by using your Wither on her. As you can see, 35% speed reduction and attack speed reduction will really shut down a carry like Ashe. And as you get more points in it, it goes up to, I think you get 3% increased with each level. So it goes up to 15% at rank 5. And it actually increases with each second that the Wither is on them. So at full rank, it'll do something like slow them by... it's like something like 35% the first second, then it goes to 50%, then it goes to 65%, and it ends up, I think, at like 90% slow at the end of the spell's effect. So anyway, like I said, very good for shutting down carries on the enemy team. Then finally, Nasus' ultimate is called Fury of the Sands, and I haven't gotten that yet, but I will when I get to level 6. It gives Nasus bonus health. Well, first of all, he grows really big. There's this graphical effect. He like grows into this giant jackal-headed monster or whatever he's supposed to be. Grants him bonus health, and any enemy champs in nearby him take area of effect damage. That's percentage based. So like I think that when you put your put your first point into it, everyone takes 3% of their health per second as damage just for standing near Nasus, and then it goes to 4% and then 5% for each point in it. So again, very useful for team fights, also very useful for taking down Dragon or for taking down Baron. So very useful to have in those kind of situations. Before they buffed Baron in a series of patches, Nasus could take down Baron at like level 10, or no, excuse me, at level 11 when he got the second rank in his ultimate, just because he'd be doing 4% damage to the Baron's total health every second. So you can't do that anymore, but you used to be able to. So it was pretty effective. Anyway, so as far as Nasus's role on the team, his main role of the team is to do some damage, but really to be sort of more of a debuffer than anything else. He's sort of tanky support more than anything else, melee tanky support, in the same way that Morgana is sort of ability power support. So for him, I mean, attack damage is nice, but really your goal is more shut down carries on the other team, do area of effect damage with Spirit Fire, with your ultimate, wither whoever is attacking quickly on the enemy team, usually a character like their Ashe in this game, or their Misfortune, their Tristana, etc., etc. So that's really your role in the team. Get up there and sort of mess with their carries and try to shut them down as much as possible in the team fights. This is one reason why I suggest taking Exhaust on Nasus, and I think most people agree on that, because again, it fits with your role in the team. You're going to get up in that Ashe's face and not just use Wither on her, but then as soon as that runs out, you can Exhaust too, and just continue shutting down the enemy team's carry. So that's really your role on the team. Do as much damage as you can, and beyond that, shut down the enemy team's carry. Anyway, I've been sort of ignoring some of the action going on in other lanes. We've been scoring some kills in the other lanes. Fortunately, you could see Cole got a kill there on their Veigar in the middle lane. We had Varus go up to the top lane and do a Rammus gank from the jungle and get a kill in the top lane just a minute ago. Mookie scoring it. Here, we were going after Ashe, but she flashes out of it. So nice play by their Ashe, but also kind of a nice play from us. We were able to get her flash down pretty easily there. And that's going to allow us to farm up these minions in complete safety. Although, unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to miss all of these. Remember, Nasus is melee champ. He can't attack from a distance anyway. Oh, one other thing, notice that Siphon Strike does actually apply bonus damage to towers, so something to keep in mind. If you hit the tower, it will apply bonus damage. Another interesting thing is if you use Wither on an enemy champ, it actually will not pull aggression at the tower, because Wither doesn't do any damage. It just applies the slowing effect, slows attack speed and slows movement speed. So you can actually mess with people at the tower using Wither, and it actually will not pull tower aggression. And anyway, we score another kill up there in the top lane. Sorry if I'm not paying attention to that, but we had kind of a lucky. I think someone on our team got away with like 10 health left, and everybody was celebrating over that in our over our chat channel, which maybe you heard in the background as I'm doing this commentary. Anyway, other things about Nasus. One of the real... here, I'll get to that in a minute. Here, we have a fight going on back and forth, and I was trying to tell Uberfish we shouldn't engage with them because I don't have any mana. Notice how I'm out of mana here. That means I can't use my ult. I'm very limited in what I can do. I was saying we really don't want to pick a fight with these guys right here. So we really need to back off and play cautiously. But Uberfish is going to go in and sort of pick a fight here anyway, which I thought at the time was a mistake, and now you can sort of see why. You can see I'm out of mana, so if I had my ult, we could fight this and we'd be in really good shape, but I don't have my ult. And then they're going to use their two ults. They're going to use the Malphite ult, and Ashe is going to kite him back. And I'm able to ghost out of it, but not able to save Uberfish's life there. So I do think that that was a bit of a mistake in terms of how to play that. So now I'm going to try to farm up at the tower. And I'm going to try to last hit these minions as much as possible. Although there, I do a poor job on the one creep. I could have gotten that one by the tower. And you can see I'm trying to last hit him with Siphoning Strike, and I'm doing a pretty fair job of doing that. Okay, one thing that often is something that people go back and forth over is what order do you skill up Nasus' skills? And on that, I don't think that there's necessarily one right answer. Some champs, there's clearly an order that's best to use skills in. Nasus, maybe not so much. The two skills generally that you probably want to prioritize are Siphoning Strike, his Q skill, and then his E skill, his Spirit Fire. Both very good skills, both very useful. In this game, I chose to level up the Siphoning Strike first. There you can see the farming stats. You can see I farmed very well. I've actually out-farmed the enemy team's Ashe considerably, which is kind of funny in this lane. I, in this game, went after the Siphoning Strike first, just because we were in a duo lane, and I didn't want to be pushing back the lane with Spirit Fire. I was content just to try to get last hits with Siphoning Strike. Now here, Mookie could get a kill on a Mumu, but he's just out of mana. If he had enough mana for the Scion Shield, that would have been a kill. In this game, I went for Siphoning Strike, and not so much for the increased damage, but because when you put more points in Siphoning Strike, it lowers the cooldown of the skill. Here we're going for a kill on Ashe, and here Varus is going to roll in, and they're going to taunt Ashe, and then together with the Tremors from Rammus, we're going to get the kill. Another good example of why Rammus is such a great jungler, and why he's so highly prized right now. Well, anyway, I'm going to continue with this discussion in the next part of the video. We're getting up to the end of part 1, so I'll finish up with these thoughts and continue in part 2.